I assume it's them putting down the smoke. Jesus.
What the f-
Greetings from Pintpot. Welcome to my latest edition of Climbing the Curve. A series intended to make you the hunter, rather than the hunted, a little faster. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Squad Leader Cert Line, and then have a quick think about how it can be improved. There are a range of options under the Squad Leader Cert Line, but there's only one genuinely important one, and that is the spawn beacon. Whilst usually you can only spawn at either a deployed Sundra or at a base, the spawn beacon allows you to deploy via a drop pod directly onto the spawn beacon. Though you do have some limited control over your drop pod, so you can manoeuvre yourself to fall on a more advantageous position, such as the roof of a building. If you are a squad leader with the spawn beacon unlocked, you get the option to use a spawn beacon tagged on after your weapon selection. So say with my light assault I have C4 on 3 and I gain the spawn beacon on 4. The spawn beacon looks like a little cylinder and shoots a faction coloured beam right up into the sky. Once deployed, squad members will have the option on the map to deploy on it. However, be warned, careful placement of a squad beacon is important, as the beam of light makes it highly visible to the enemy and it can be destroyed, either by direct damage or an EMP grenade. When it comes to the EMP grenade, there's effectively nothing you can do about them killing it. But luckily, not many people seem to equip them. They can be killed by direct damage, but they are a relatively small target, so most players have to get pretty close to gain an accurate shot against them. Therefore, if possible, try and put them in a defensible position or an inaccessible one. Light assaults are particularly handy at doing this. So why is this such an important ability? Well, it has two principal uses. The first is to get non-light assaults to inaccessible positions. Think snipers on top of the tower, or heavy assaults on top of the roof or the bridge. In other words, access to a location which will give them a large tactical advantage. But the most important one is the ability to maintain an attack in an area where you cannot maintain a spawn location. This could be down to a variety of reasons, such as there's no good defensible position for a Sundra, or the enemy have lots of armour, so as soon as you bring a Sundra along, it will get destroyed. However, a well organised squad, with the help of a spawn beacon and its medics, can maintain the control or defence of a key location or control point despite the enemy controlling the area around it. In many ways, having a spawn beacon over the point you want to take is much more efficient than spawning at the Sundra, as you don't have to run the gauntlet to get into the control point. However, spawn beacons do have another limitation over and above the fact they can be destroyed, and this is the cooldown. At rank 1, it's a 2.5 minute cooldown before you can redeploy, but realistically in hotly contested points you're dropping onto, your life expectancy is probably going to be considerably shorter than that. Think anywhere between 30 seconds and a minute and a half. As each rank of a spawn beacon knocks off 15 seconds from this cooldown, it's actually pretty important that you upgrade it to a sufficient level where the gap between one spawn and another is as small as possible. So it takes 10 seconds to drop, plus a life expectancy of somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute and a half, plus 15 seconds cooldown to redeploy once you're dead. Therefore at max rank you can probably pretty much redeploy instantly or with only a small gap. But at rank 1, when you've got a 2.5 minute cooldown, the chances are you're going to be having to wait around for a minute plus before you can redeploy. As a result, your squad will lose its critical mass and get massacred in the meantime. Therefore, spawn beacon on rank 1 is very good for just dropping in inaccessible positions, but is really not sufficient for holding a hotly contested point. Therefore, as a squad leader, I'll be looking to run as a minimum rank 3 for an investment of 330 certs. This will give you a cooldown of 2 minutes on redeploying onto it, which is not ideal but not too bad. Now it's when we come to the other abilities on the Squad Leader Cert Line that a few problems appear, in my opinion. For a 50 cert investment you can put down a coloured smoke dispenser. There are 4 varieties of colour. For 100 certs you get into the command chat, which allows you to listen and talk to other commanders of squads, plus it allows you to put down the order command, which basically sends a request across the entire continent for reserves or whatever you're asking for. And for 200 certs you get the option to put down either an attack or defense symbol on the map, which everyone can see. I would say all of these are low priority investments, and the reasons are these. Firstly, the coloured smoke dispensers don't mean anything to anyone other than the person who put it down. To everyone else it's just coloured smoke. You can kind of guess what it means, but ultimately a lot of people seem to use them just to put down interesting and pretty patterns. i.e. the issue is that it's not an incredibly informative way of telling all of your faction members what you intend to do or what the purpose of a smoke is. In other words, it's a very ambiguous visual cue. The same to a certain extent also applies to the reinforcement requests. The symbols simply mean attack or defend, but provides precious little information about the person who put down the request, such as their name, the size of their squad, and what their ultimate goal is. And the command chat is intermittently useful, but I don't find it helps me a great deal. Therefore, in the early game, I really wouldn't be bothering with these upgrades. So what should we be having in the game instead? Well, in my opinion, visual and audio cues are of incredible importance in Planetside 2. Typed text tends to be deprioritized or ignored because it's time consuming to write and people are too busy to look up at their text screen when they're fighting. But having said that, organised play is of paramount importance in Planetside 2, being a combined arms game. To be genuinely effective requires coordinated action, plus it's a great deal more fun when you're fighting as a team. But for newer players in particular, though I think this applies to all players, they're not necessarily going to be running with their outfit. Or if they are in a squad with their outfit, then they'll need the assistance of the other faction players around them to achieve their goal. So what we really need in this game are a series of visual and audio cues which allow you to not only communicate what you're attempting to do to players around you, but to coordinate your squad members with non-squad members to achieve those goals. What I want to know is, where are the tools which allow you to send out visual cues that say there's prowlers on a hill, or a sunderer behind a rock, or snipers on the top of the tower? Where are the audio cues you could use which will announce to everyone you're about to start a big attack, or a max crash, or something along those lines? I want to see skull and crossbones appear over danger areas, or maybe a flashing beacon which tells people where the point of attack is going to be. In this way you can integrate those that are in your own squad and those outside of them in a much better fashion to have much better coordinated attacks. It's easier to learn and less intrusive using these sorts of tools rather than having to set up a chat, etc using the current tools. With the use of easily recognisable icons or sounds, newer players can soon be taught by more experienced outfits and squads what they're meant to be doing and how to coordinate themselves with the outfits in question. Surely in a game like Planetside 2, with such a steep learning curve, this will be a better way to integrate players into the game, teach them what to do, rather than allow them to run around like headless chickens being farmed. So, in conclusion, the spawn beacon is an incredibly useful ability, and whether or not you're going to run in large squads or small, I recommend in picking up at least rank 1. However, the rest of the cert line is pretty underwhelming, and personally I'd be much happier if Zoe took the time to beef it up. Now, my next episode I'm going to be taking a look at C4. In the meantime, if you found this episode interesting or useful, please feel free to thumbs up, thumbs down, comment or subscribe as appropriate. In the meantime, have a good one, happy hunting, and Pintpot out.
Sun is down.
Sun is down. Oh no! No!
Oh, yeah.
What was that all about?